Hi and good day everyone. For today's video, we will be discussing the Erikson psychosocial theory of development. But before we go through our discussion, let me first introduce to you my groupmates. We have Itwaban Alalane, Bahaganas Shireen, Rika Blanca Hazel, and Kanoy Angela. Learning objectives of Erikson psychosocial theory of development. At the end of this discussion, you will be able to summarize the Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, explain the 8 stages of life and 6 ways in how Erikson's theory is useful as a future teacher, develop psychological strength or character traits, and you can be able to clarify the developmental challenges faced at various points in our life. But beforehand, let us first know who is Erikson and what was his contribution to the theory of development. So, Erikson was a stage theorist during the 1902 to 1994 who taught Freud's controversial theory of psychosexual development and modified it as says that the ego makes positive contributions to the development by mastering attitudes, ideas, skills at each stage of development. This mastery helps children grow into successful, contributing members of the society. During each of Erikson's 8 stages, there is a psychological conflict that must be successfully overcome in order for a child to develop into a healthy, well-adjusted adult. So in the next slide of this presentation, it was supposed to be a word game, but suddenly we can be able to have our report face-to-face, so let's just keep this one. So let's proceed to the next slide. Basic cognitive concept. We have here first is the autonomy. This means self-government, freedom to act or function independently. So, unsa man ang autonomy? Autonomy is a self-government. It is how we develop character on our own independently. Next, we have the psychosocial. Psychosocial refers to having both psychological and social aspects. We have here a summary chart of psychosocial stages. We have the age, conflict, important events, and the outcome. So in the age, we have infancy, birth to 18 months, early childhood 2 to 3 years old, preschool 3 to 5, school age 6 to 11, adolescence 12 to 18, young adulthood 19 to 40, middle adulthood 40 to 60. The conflict, we have the trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, and fear. Ego integrity versus despair, and this will be discussed by the following reporters.
Hi, I'm Aline and I am going to discuss to you the first stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. So the first stage of Erikson's theory is the trust and mistrust. So first, let us define what is trust and mistrust. So what is trust? So trust is to have a strong belief in the goodness or ability to someone or something. So kani siya ang nakay dakong pagsalig sa usa ka butang or sa usa ka tawo. What is mistrust? So mistrust is to have no confidence or no trust in. So ang kaning mistrust is mao ning wala kay salig sa imong kagalingon or wala kay salig sa usa ka butang or sa usa ka tawo.
Trust versus mistrust. This stage begins at birth, continues to approximately 18 months of age. During this stage, the infant is uncertain about the world in which they live and looks towards their primary caregiver for stability and consistency of care. A sense of trust which will carry with them to other relationships, and they will be able to feel secure even when threatened. If these needs are not consistently met, mistrust, suspicion, and anxiety may develop. In this situation, the infant will not have confidence in the world around them or in their abilities to influence events.
Trust versus mistrust. At this stage of psychosocial stage ni Erikson is appear ni siya during sa infancy sa kanina stage sa bata. And ang bata is look after sila sa care sa ilang primary caregiver. So, mabitaw makabantay mo na naangkoy bata nga dili mo duol. Unya, ang uban is maghasol. If wala na, nga gi-consider nila nga makahatag nila trust. So, og dili na siya ma-meet, possibly nga ma-threaten sila. Ma-develop ilang mistrust. So, as much as possible, kay wala pa man na sila consciousness, it's better na i-meet na nga demand.
Autonomy versus shame and dump. At this stage occurs between the age of 18 months to approximately 3 years. Children at this stage are focused on developing a sense of personal control over physical skills and a sense of independence. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of will, confident and secure in their own ability to survive in the world. Overly dependent upon others, lack self-esteem and feel a sense of shame or dump in their abilities.
During sa stage of autonomy versus self-dump, ang bata is slowly mo develop siya o character. Then, kini mo occur ni siya during sa 2 years old sa bata. So, as what we usually observe, if mo reach na ang bata ng idara, is they can do basic things on their own. Like, they can walk without holding, and kay baw na sila mo choose sa ilang sulpugon. And then, mo socialize na siya, but in some point, if kita parents, kay sige na to sila guidan, then, mo confront bisag gamay na sayo, possibly nga ang bata is ma-develop iyang sense of self-dump. Why? Because magmatngon man siya, pero nga dili siya masayo. And as much as possible, let them explore.
At this point, psychosocial development, children begin to assert their power and control over the world through directing play and other social interactions. Dito sa stage 3, yung mga bata ay nag-aaral na. Nagsimula na silang pumasok sa paaralan. Maaaring nasa kinder na sila o preschool. Dito na rin nagsisimula yung pagkikipagkaibigan na sila. Children who are successful at this stage feel capable and able to lead others. Sa stage na to, ipinapakita na yung positive and negative side. Ang mga bata na naging successful sa stage 3, makikita mo sa kanila yung initiative. Kumbaga, meron silang will. Willing nilang gawin or may kusa silang gawin yung mga bagay na inaatang sa kanila. Halimbawa, yung mga bata na naging successful sa stage 3 ay sila yung mga bata na nakakapag-lead ng kapwa nila mag-aaral. Ibig sabihin, sila yung nag-lead sa mga classmate nila. Sila yung nangunguna kapag may mga kailangang gawin, while those who fail to acquire these skills are left with sense of guilt, self-doubt, and lack of initiative. Ito naman yung negative side ng stage 3. Yung mga bata na hindi naging successful sa pag-transition nila sa stage 3, ang mangyari sa kanila is wala silang initiative at wala rin silang tiwala sa sarili nila. Kadalasan, kapag may gagawin sila or like mga activities baron, na nagdadalawang isip sila kung kaya ba nila yon or magagawa ba nila yon. The major theme of the third stage of psychosocial development is that children need to begin asserting control and power of the environment. Ang hallmark ng stage 3 ay yung mga bata dapat matuto silang mag-lead, matuto silang magkaroon ng initiative, kumbaga dapat magkaroon sila ng kusang loob o willingness. Success in this stage leads to a sense of purpose. Children who try to exert too much power experience disapproval, resulting in a sense of guilt. In this stage, kailangan pa din tandaan or matutunan ng mga bata na yung pagiging balanse. Ibig sabihin, may mga gawain na dapat silang magkusa, may mga gawain naman na hindi pa muna dapat magkusa or mag-initiate. Kasi minsan ang lumalabas kapag nasobra, nagkukusa yung bata na masyadong mapapil, kaya ang outcomes nun ay madidiscriminate siya or mabubuli. History versus inferiority. The fourth psychosocial stage takes place during the early school year from approximately ages 5 to 11. Ang mga bata na under sa stage 4, ay yung mga batang nasa grade 1 o up until grade 6. Through social interactions, children begin to develop a sense of pride in their accomplishments and abilities. Dahil na nag-aaral na ang mga bata na under sa stage 4, natututo na silang makipag-interact sa mga kaklase nila o sa mga tao na nakapaligid sa kanila. At dahil dito, nabubuo ang comparison, so nakukumpara na sila sa mga kaklase nila. Halimbawa, si ganito ang galing niyang kumanta, siya ang galing niyang magsalita. Dahil nga nagkakaroon ng comparison, ang goal dito ng bata na under sa stage 4, which is industry versus inferiority, is siya yung mas maging mataas, siya yung makakuha ng perfect score. Kumbaga, ang goal dito ng isang bata is magkaroon ng mga rewards and accomplishments. Dahil doon sa mga rewards na nakukuha nila, tumataas yung tingin nila sa sarili nila. Ito na yung pinapakita yung negative and positive side ng stage 4. Ang positive side ng stage 4 ay ang industry. Sinasabi dito na kapag naging successful yung stage 4, ang mangyayari sa bata is mas magiging competent siya, mas magiging palaban siya, kasi alam niya sa sarili niya na kaya niya. Ang magiging mindset niya is like kanang mana siya nga, nabuhat yun ako sa una, karon daw baka. Kumbaga, malaki yung tiwala niya sa sarili niya. Ang negative side naman is inferiority. Kapag hindi naging successful ang bata, ay mawawala ng tiwala sa kanyang sarili. Like, always yung in-lockdown niyang self, compare to others. Ang maaaring resulta nun is baka hindi na niya gawin ang yung dapat niyang gawin. Kumbaga, hindi na niya gawin yung mga bagay na dapat niyang gawin. Children who are encouraged and commended by parents and teachers develop a feeling of competence and belief in their skills. In this stage, kahit hindi pa super independent yung bata sa magulang niya, big help gapon if ang parents is na always sa ilang side para ma-boost ang confidence ng isang bata. Yung simpleng pagsabi ng magulang mo na kaya mo yan, malaki ang tiwala namin sa iyo. Malaking factor na yon para mas ma-boost yung confidence ng bata. Same lang din dito sa mga yung madalas mga kasama, especially sa school, yung mga sinasabi ng teacher, lahat yun tatatak sa isang estudyante at lahat yun nakaka-apekto sa isang estudyante. Pwede yung magandang epekto or pwede rin hindi. Those who receive little or no encouragement from parents, teachers, or peers will doubt their abilities to be successful. Kung kanina sinasabi ko na malaki yung factor na naitutulong ng isang guro at isang magulang sa pag-motivate ng isang bata. Sa kabaliktaran, pag hindi naman na minomotivate ng isang magulang, ng isang guro, ang isang student, ang mangyayari is bababa yung tingin ng estudyante sa sarili niya. And probably na may isip kasi niya na siguro hindi ako magaling kasi walang pumapuri sa akin, and so on.
Next is the fifth stage of Erikson theory of psychosocial development is identity versus role confusion. It occurs during adolescence from about 12 to 18 years. So during this stage, adolescents search for a sense of self and personal identity through an extensive exploration of personal values, beliefs, and goals. So during adolescence, the transition from childhood to adulthood is most important. So in this stage, this is when the teenager or the adolescent is confused about the sense of who they are or who they want to be. They are looking for new roles to help them discover their sexual, moral, and job-related identities. So the adolescents was trying to do is they're balancing between selecting a single self and trying out many possible selves. So for example, vocational identity. They deciding on what career and vocational will be. So they're going to ask themselves like, what goal exactly I want to achieve? Am I going to be an athlete? Am I going to be an actor? Or am I going to be an educator, and etc. So as we can see, we're trying in all of these possible selves. Adults are trying to find their own identity. They're trying to figure out what is distinguished about them and what is unique about them. So they're trying to put in different roles and see if they fit in their future life. Like, it is also a stage where they're trying to see if this role is fit in their own capabilities and views that they have about themselves. So this stage plays an essential role in developing a sense of personal identity, which will continue to influence behavior and development for the rest of a person's life. So how can it happen? It can only happen if the child knows kung sino ba talaga siya, kung ano ba talaga siya, kung ano ba talaga ang gusto niya for the next years. Kumbaga, before mag-transition in next stages or stage 6, the child should already know who she or he really was and knew what he or she was going to do. Like for example, gender identity. There are males na pinanganak na may pusong babae. There are also females na pinanganak na may pusong lalaki. So if they haven't discovered who they really was, if they haven't discovered what they really are, they will lead to role confusion. Also, role confusion involves the individuals not being sure about themselves, of their place in society. Like they being unsure of who they are and where they fit in the society. As a result, they will drifting from one job or relationship to another. That's why this stage is very important, since in this stage, nakadepende ang stage 6, 7, and 8. So kung unsang pagkakilala ng bata sa iyang kaugalingon kay madalanin niya sa next stages. Also, this is a major stage of development where the child has to learn he will occupy as an adult. So, like what I've said earlier, this stage is where the child has to learn the rule that stage is intimacy versus isolation. This is the 6th stage of Erikson theory of psychosocial development. This stage takes place during young adulthood between the ages of approximately 18 to 40 years. During this stage, we begin to share ourselves more intimately with others. So successful completion of this stage can result in happy relationship and a sense of commitment, safety, and care within a relationship. So if the individual is successful sa kanilang stage, which is stage 6, kay mabilongin sila sa positive side, which is intimacy. At ang mangyayari doon is makabuo sila ng strong relationships. Minsan ito pang mga relationship na hanggang pagtanda ay sila pa rin. So, intimacy is the ability to relate one's deepest hopes and fears to another person, and to accept another needs for intimacy in return. So in other words, it's not just about sex, not just about love, it's going way beyond that, where you can share your very deep inner thoughts with someone, and have a trust and willingness to do so. So in other words, you can completely spill your guts to this person, and hopes they will not betray you. So to me, this go way beyond the physical relationship. It's going psychology deeper to that, where you're sort of able to share your very deep secrets to someone else. So it definitely involves committing to someone based on mutual trust. So you trust this person to not share this stuff. Like for example, you're committed to them, you trust them, they're not going to betray you and flip with other people kind of thing. So in other words, you're very deeply committed to this person.
Hi, I am Angeline Kanay, and the topic that was assigned to me is the generativity versus stagnation. Generativity versus stagnation is the 7th of 8 stages of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. Before I continue my discussion, the positive side of theory of Mr. Erikson is the generativity, and the negative side is the stagnation. So first, we will define what is generativity all about. So generativity means the ability to contribute to one's family, community, work, society in a positive way and assist the young generation. So next is stagnation. So what stagnation means? So stagnation refers to failure to find a way to contribute. These individuals may feel disconnected or uninvolved with their community and with the society as a whole. In short, stagnation when one is only concerned with one's own needs and comfort. This stage takes place during middle adulthood, ages 40 to 65 years. During middle age, individuals experience a need to create or nurture things that will outlast them, being productive at work and becoming involved in community activities and organizations. In this statement, you start to maintain or reach your career goals, and you also reflect on the progress that you made so far in your life. So you start to analyze what those things nga nakatabang nimo nganong naabot ka ng posisyon na makatabang po sa next generation na ma-develop or ma-improve sa ng ilang skills o makatabang sad sila sa umaabot sa ilang generation. Success leads to feelings of usefulness and accomplishment, while failure results in shallow involvement in the world. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of care. If that person is successful in stage 7, na naa na siya mga achievements or ma-feel na niya nga satisfied na siya sa iyang nabuhat or naa na siya na contribute sa society, nakabuhat siya og ma-ups. If these individuals fail to attain the stage 7, diri na mosuod si stagnation. Kumbaga makontento na lang siya kung sinaan niya ron, mo-stop na iyang learnings, develop ang iyang learnings, ang iyang mga skills. If ever mauni mahitabo sa usa ka individual, igabot niya sa stage 8, ang iyang pwedeng ma-feel kay despair. Individual has the positive or generative mind, masuccessful jud siya, kinaaman niya ang mga abilities na pwede niyang magamit para maka-contribute sa community o sa society nga masuon po sa next generation. So here's the characteristic of generativity versus stagnation. Nata sa final stage ang ika-8, which is ang ego integrity versus despair. This stage begins at approximately age 65 and ends at death. Erikson described ego integrity as the acceptance of one's one and only life cycle of something that had to be, and later as a sense of coherence and wholeness. Usually nga mahitabo diri ay nagbabalik tanaw sila. Nanibalik sila sa mga nindot nga kaagi, bati nga kaagi, kalipay nga kaagi nila sa panahon nga ulitaw pa sila. They already accepted the death. Kay nahimo naman nila ang ilang mga gusto sa kinabuhi, but opposite siya sa despair. Kay tungod ang despair, we become dissatisfied with the life and develop despair, often leading to depression and hopelessness. Success in this stage will lead to the virtuous wisdom. So if that individual wala naka-experience or nagmahay nga nganong wala niya nabuhat sa panahon nga ulitaw pa siya o iyan ning gibitbit hantod nagkatiguan siya, nay possibility nga maunay makakos sa iyahang pagkamatay kay tungod sa iyang mga hinanakit nga iyahang gikungkung, mga kasakit nga wala niya mapagawas, kay tungod walay maminaw niya, kay tungod wala na siya naka-feel og love, wala na siya naka-feel og time sa iyang pamilya.
Conclusion of Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. Erikson does not implicitly explain how the outcome of one psychosocial stage influences the personality at a later stage. However, Erikson stressed his work was a tool to think with rather than a factual analysis. Its purpose then is to provide a framework within which development can be considered rather than a testable theory. One of the strengths of Erikson's theory is the ability to tie together important psychosocial development across the entire lifespan. And lastly, although Erikson's stages of personality development exist critics of his theory, it still provides evidence.
Erikson's theory of psychosocial development identifies 8 stages which a healthy individual should pass through from birth to death. At each stage, we encounter different needs, ask new questions, and meet people who influence our behavior and learning. Stage 1. Basic trust versus mistrust. As infants, we ask ourselves if we can trust the world, and we wonder if it's safe. We learn that if we can trust someone now, we can also trust others in the future. If we experience fear, we develop doubt and mistrust. The key to our development is our mother. Stage 2. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. In our early childhood, we experience ourselves and discover our body. We ask, is it okay to be me? If we are allowed to discover ourselves, then we develop self-confidence. If we are not, we can develop shame and self-doubt. Both parents now play a major role. Stage 3. Initiative versus guilt. In preschool, we take initiative, try out new things, and learn basic principles like how round things roll. We ask, is it okay for me to do what I do? If we are encouraged, we can follow our interests. If we are held back or told that what we do is silly, we can develop guilt. We are now learning from the entire family. Stage 4. Industry versus inferiority. Now we discover our own interests and realize that we are different from others. We want to show that we can do things right. We ask if we can make it in this world. If we receive recognition from our teachers or peers, we become industrious, which is another word for hardworking. If we get too much negative feedback, we start to feel inferior and lose motivation. Our neighbors and schools now influence us the most. Stage 5. Identity versus role confusion. During adolescence, we learn that we have different social roles. We are friends, students, children, and citizens. Many experience an identity crisis. If our parents now allow us to go out and explore, we can find identity. If they push us to conform to their views, we can face role confusion and feel lost. Key to our learning are our peers and role models. Stage 6. Intimacy versus isolation. As young adults, we slowly understand who we are, and we start to let go of the relationships we had built earlier in order to fit in. We ask ourselves if we can love. If we can make a long-term commitment, we are confident and happy. If we cannot form intimate relationships, we might end up feeling isolated and lonely. Our friends and partners are now central to our development. Stage 7. Generativity versus stagnation. When we reach our 40s, we become comfortable, use our leisure time creatively, and maybe begin contributing to society. Our concern is generativity. If we think that we are able to lead the next generation into this world, we are happy. If we did not resolve some conflicts earlier, we can become pessimistic and experience stagnation. People at home and at work are now who influences the most. Stage 8. Ego integrity versus despair. As we grow older, we tend to slow down and begin to look back over our lives. We ask, how have I done? If we think we did well, we develop feelings of contentment and integrity. If not, we can experience despair and become grumpy and bitter. Time to compare us with mankind. Erikson was a German-American psychologist who, together with his wife Joan, became known for his work on psychosocial development. He was influenced by Sigmund and Anna Freud and became famous for coining the phrase identity crisis. Although Erikson lacked even a bachelor's degree, he served as a professor at Harvard and Yale.